Hi there everyone, welcome back to my channel. Now I wanted to get one last deck list thrown out before I go off to Cardiff this weekend for Winter Cup, and I can't believe how many entrants we've had for this event already. We've got over 200 competitors coming to Winter Cup just to come and chill with the Final Fantasy family. That's a hashtag, by the way, you can use that for Twitter, etc. And I just wanted to show you guys another Wind Water deck. Now I know you guys are probably sick of seeing Wind Water decks, but this one doesn't have a copy of Yuna, Riku or Pain in sight, and I wanted to show you the versatility between these two elements that's really strong, and this one is actually going to be focused around Final Fantasy V. Now I've actually kind of gotten a bit obsessed with Final Fantasy V recently in general. Like, Bartz as a character is a character that I've just started to really love, and I couldn't even tell you why. Maybe it's because I play a lot of him in mobile games like Record Keeper, but I don't know, I just really like a lot of the characters in Final Fantasy V, so I hope that you guys enjoy this video and the deck list, and I'm actually going to play this deck. I'm going to bring it with me for Winter Cup, so you guys can try it out for real if you are at the event, so I hope I get to see a load of you guys there. Now before we get started, there's still just a little bit of time left for you guys to enter my free Noctis giveaway, which will have 2 copies of the full art Noctis that were given away with display boxes of Opus 7, but you guys can earn yourself one for absolutely nothing by just following the link in the description box below. And that will end at the end of the Thursday, the 13th of December, so you've not got a lot of time left, but definitely get your casts or get your votes and stuff in for that ready, so that hopefully we can announce the winners after I come back from Cardiff. Now I might post the cards out after Christmas, purely because I think it'll be a little bit of a mess trying to get everything out around Christmas, so do bear with me on that one. And again, don't forget to check all of my social links in the description box below, including my Patreon, if you would like to kind of support this channel further, and I would love you very much for anyone who does that, as I'm looking to really push this channel more in the new year in terms of streaming and things like that. I'm still trying to get my head around a lot of it, but I'm taking a huge leap of faith here, so I hope you guys will be along for the ride as well. And also my Discord channel, which I'll also leave a link to for you, where we've got a really thriving community that can talk about Final Fantasy trading card game and all manner of other things, so definitely join us on there. Now this deck is slightly more experimental than the deck that I posted last week, which was Wind Water using new legendary Yuna, but I really like the power behind the forwards you can get in this deck. It's a very different build of Wind Water, and as I said, it's also surrounded around Final Fantasy V, but not only that, but it also incorporates some little strategies from Warrior of Light, which is a archetype you guys know I really like. A second Opus 7 came out. I like any excuse to run Light Wall, quite honestly, and this is a great one. So going into forwards, we're going to start off with Fame Mimic Go-Go and Knight. Now this is obviously very common in a lot of mono water decks that use Lena, and Fame Mimic Go-Go is Final Fantasy V, and Knight is also FF5, and Lena obviously is Final Fantasy V. So you'll see there's actually an awful lot of targets for Faris when we get to talking about her, and that's a really big part of the deck for both her and Bartz. So having these cards that are already really powerful in this deck makes for a really strong kind of being able to swarm your board with really powerful forwards, which is what this deck is all about. And then Opus 7 Bartz is a card that I think got overlooked when the set came out because its S abilities are quite unrealistic, or to be able to trigger its big S ability is quite unrealistic. However, being able to activate 2 FF5 characters is actually very strong in here, as you can either use it to make him cheaper, because quite a few of our backups are FF5, or you can use it to basically give your forwards Brave. When they're as powerful as Knight, or when they're fully boosted, you can actually get a lot of damage through using these kinds of things. And not only that, but the second S ability, which is, let me just look at this up, Dual Wield can actually be really strong in here as well. And you never know, something like Spellblade could come in handy because your opponent never knows when you've got it coming, because all it costs is a copy of Bartz. And if you've discarded a copy of this Bartz to the Brave Zone, then it's more targets for Wall to bring back, because he's a Warrior of Light, and that's actually really pertinent in this deck. Dusk is a card that I am experimenting with because there are quite a few Warrior of Lights in this deck, and it does help pay towards some of the summons that are in here, but I wasn't entirely sure whether we would want to have Dusk in here, so by all means try him, but if I were to cut him, then I would probably put in a 3rd copy of Faris. Ranger is a standard unit, which is helpful. It's a Final Fantasy V standard unit, and it also can't be targeted by things, which is always helpful. Ranger is actually a really solid card in general, and we have lots of ways in this deck to actually make him stronger, so I definitely wanted to put a couple in here, as well as just to have another standard unit target for things like Gladiator that isn't just Knight. And then Refia makes an awful lot of sense in here. It buffs Fame Mimic Go-Go and Knight very well. It boosts all of your Warrior of Light, so Wall, Faris, Bart. It's a really useful card, and you never know that, you know, because you have things like Lena Knight or Lena Go-Go, and you've got quite a lot of kind of, you know, consistency plays, you're probably going to be able to use Refy's bottom ability as well, so don't count that out. It is actually very helpful in the right situations. Ishtola is in here because she's Ishtola and it's a win deck, therefore she goes in. It's just pretty much a given, and the last thing you want when you've accumulated this massive board is to get Shantoto'd or something along those lines, so we definitely want to have a couple of Ishtolas in here. And then I've gone with one copy of 4-drop Barts, which is Barts has all the jobs, we all know the meme by now, but it's actually really useful in here because it's both a Warrior of Light and a standard unit, and it's an FFI character obviously, so it actually has synergies across the board for everything we have in this deck, and it can be used as S fodder for the other Barts if so required, and I think that having just the extra copy of him makes the consistency that much wider, and honestly if you have him and you have all of the boosters out, you're looking at a hell of a beefcake here. And then Faris, honestly, I absolutely adore in this deck because she's water primarily, which means that we get an EX Burst Searcher in our backup lineup that makes a lot more sense. And then Faris also is a consistency play, so if you get to draw a card from the top 5 cards of your deck with her, which is extremely likely because we're running 1, 4, 7, 12, 13, 15, 18, 20, 24, 20, we're running 28 FF5 characters in this deck. The chances are you're going to hit something with Faris when you play her. There is over 50% of the deck is Final Fantasy V, so definitely at least 2 copies of Faris. As I said earlier, if I were to cut dust from this deck, because I don't think I'm not sure whether he'll work as well as I want him to or not, then it would get dropped for a 3rd copy of Faris. Wall is just a brilliant card. Again, we have plenty of Warrior of Lights in the deck, including a backup, which I also want to touch on when we get to the backups as well. So there's lots of little synergies within the deck that all coincide with each other. And obviously, if Wall dies, then you can then bring back either Bart or Refy, which is really handy, or again, Arc, because Arc is a Warrior of Light, but he's a backup. So it also makes for a really interesting kind of play between being able to use Wall to build your back row, and I actually quite like that. Cloud of Darkness, we have a way of amassing forwards very quickly, so Cloud of Darkness like opens your opponent up really well, certainly in a deck that has such high-powered forwards. And then Lena is a given. Lena being able to, I've put 4 targets for her in Knight and Fame Mimic Go-Go. You might want to put a second Fame Mimic Go-Go in. That's not a problem either, but I just thought that 4 was enough for her, certainly considering we have Gladiator to bring back the Knights as well. I've gone without Bran this time around because we already have King Tycoon, and I didn't want to exceed my 5 sticky backups rule, which I actually did do in the last video. I accidentally put a 6th one in there, but we all make mistakes. But I tried to not exceed 5 in here, and having Arya or Bran in here kind of padded it out too heavily, and neither of those are FF5 characters, so I stuck with King Tycoon, which was the character that I mentioned when talking about Faris. And then going into backups, then Arc is a card that I think is very, very interesting in here. When I showed a couple of people this, they were like, oh, that's an interesting one. Why have you gone with Arc? It only boosts Knight and Ranger. I mean, I added Bart's, the 4th copy of Bart's in later, who it also buffs, but my primary reason that I wanted to run Arc in here is because I think that Knight benefits most when it has two boosters. So whether that be Maria, Waka, Arc, or Refy, we obviously don't want to run Waka in here because it's not a mono-coloured deck, but Waka's also not a 2 CP backup. And the fact that Arc is a Warrior of Light that can be accessed through Wall in either of its abilities also means that it's an easy discard turn 1 if you don't want it. So turn 1 it's useful, so like just by being a 2 CP wind backup, but it's also useful later if you don't want it early in the game because you want to use it to play something else, and then you can always pull it back with Wall. And if you already have, say, Bart's out or Refy, because it's just a nice little extra that you can get. And then being able to get Fame Mimic Go-Go, Bart's or Ranger being 9k through Maria and Arc makes it a very scary card, and then Knight obviously gets massive very quickly, so I really like Arc in here. Archer I've put in here because I honestly like Archer and Hecatonka in any deck that can go in it because I like backup destruction. I don't want to see Fusoya come down. I don't want to see Semi-Lafina come down. There's various different sort of low CP backups Power boosters I'd rather get rid of if I can in this deck, because obviously I want my forwards to be bigger than my opponents. So I think Archer is generally useful. It also is a backup that can remove itself at any given time for an effect that's always useful, and that's why I always like Archer. Gladiator, I don't think we need to have the full 3 in here because we're not basing the entire deck around standard units, but because we have quite a few in here and they benefit from Arc, it makes sense to run at least 2 of it. And then both copies of 2 Wind Oracle, 2 Water Oracle, they are both in here because they're FF5 characters. The Wind Oracle can be very useful in certain situations, so say your board has been tapped down by an ice deck, or it allows you to overextend because you can then just activate everything in response to whatever your opponent is doing, and that's useful. And then Oracle, a Water Oracle, I've put in here more as an alternative to Artemisian than anything. And we have a few EX bursts in here, but we don't have a huge amount of them. So I don't think it's a majorly necessary thing for any other reason than it being an FF5 character for the sake of Faris and Bart. King Tycoon is an older card that got blown wide open the second that Faris got released, because Faris and Lena, both being water and King Tycoon being wind, means that the consistency of the FF5 engine is absolutely built upon, and King Tycoon does that fantastically. Maria obviously makes a lot of sense in here. We want to make sure our forwards are big, so you want to keep it that way, and it being out of the range of Archer is also very nice. So you actually can get your forwards to be really big without being threatened by Archer or Hecaton, because you have Arc that can't be hit by Hecaton, and you have Maria that can't be hit by Archer, and then Refia, which is a forward and can't be hit by either of them. So you can actually get your forwards to be really big without having to do too much, and it's really nice to do that. And then Yuna I put in here because it's extra removal, and it opens up Chaos Walker of the Wheel to being an absolutely busted summon. It's a decent summon at the worst of times, but you know, with Yuna, it's just a crazy, crazy card, and it also shuts down a lot of sort of graveyard or break zone capabilities for a lot of different cards. So I wanted to put 3 copies of it in here. A, to add up to the X burst, B, to add up to the removal suite, and C, just to make it so that Chaos is that much stronger. And then going over the summons, I wanted to put Famfret in here purely because we have things like Knight that don't mind being Famfreted, and Wall that absolutely loves being Famfreted, but honestly, I think the summons I've picked here actually make more sense for the deck. So Chaos Walker of the Wheel is a removal piece, and it's a very, very good one, certainly alongside Yuna. Cuchulainn is just one of the... It's been played so much, it's just such a strong card. It draws a card, it's a great EX burst, it's great on offense or defense. Because your guys are going to be active a lot of the time, then you can do a lot of work with them, and in combat it just does so much. And in combination with Cloud of Darkness as well, it's just a great card. And then to not run Diablos would be a critical error in a wind deck, because it's just that good. And I've gone for a full 3 copies of it in here, because if something is too big for my guys to deal with, it's probably 5 CP or higher, so it's going to be able to kill it outright. And even if it's not, if it's just been boosted like crazy, then you can at least set its initial value to 1000 so that its buffs aren't affecting or aren't putting it over the top of my guys, and then that makes a lot of sense for it. And being able to activate all my forwards is in theme with the deck, and being able to activate my backups is in theme with the deck, so it makes a lot of sense to be in here at 3. So that's going to be it for this video, and as I said, I shall be taking this deck with me this weekend to Cardiff, where hopefully I'll get to meet a load of you guys that I haven't met before and see a load of you guys that I have, and I'm really looking forward to spending time with my FF family, as I said at the beginning of the video. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and stay tuned for more Final Fantasy decks. Over the next couple of weeks I'm going to be talking about like the year in Final Fantasy and how it's really progressed and how things have really changed for me personally, as well as the game itself. I think there's been such amazing growth for this game, and I really, really look forward to the future for it and for myself. So, like I said, thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for all of that. I'll see you guys soon. Bye!